Before we begin, thank you very much to Daniel B. for joining the Patreon campaign. Thank you very much for the help. Thank you very much for the assistance. Just a quick reminder, because it continues to be true. The Patreon is why I can continue to do this. So if the daily content is up your alley and you want it to continue, please consider pitching in, even if it's just $1 or $2 a month. That does the world of good for the channel and helps keep me doing all of this for everybody. So thank you very much for the support. Oh, and it's a good day, isn't it? So, we have a new set of leaks to discuss, and it's just enough for me to get a full video's worth of conversation out. We don't have to save this for the news roundup on Monday. Oh, we got some interesting things. Okay, so, I'm pulling the list and details of this off of TFW 2005 because, prolific leaker JT Prime 17 has revealed some new things that we have found that will be coming out in 2025, including parts of the next main line of Transformers, or I guess collector's line of Transformers, which is apparently what I'm now like seeing it listed as Age of the Primes. So Transformers Generation Age of the Primes, which we were worried that it was originally just going to be Generations Prime, which would be real confusing, so I'm glad they added to that. No idea where the name came from, but I like it. It sounds cool. So, let us begin. Now, some of this is reconfirmation of things we've already seen or speculated on, but it is worth going over now that there is some kind of official confirmation of its existence. For instance, Silverbolt. This is Commander Class Silverbolt. Now, the listings that we have seen previously did indicate that we were getting a brand new set of aerial bots. And considering how popular they were, no real surprise that we are expecting them to be very similar to the Legacy Stunticons, where they are far closer to the Sunbow animation model rather than the original G1 toys, which is more slanted toward what we got in Combiner Wars. The difference here is that I think Menasor from Titan's Return or from Combiner Wars absolutely needed the update, because that is not a pretty looking combiner. But I thought Silverbolt came out much better. I thought that was a far better handled combiner group than Menasor and the Stunticons. So getting a brand new version of them is a little bit weird, but we know that there are reasonings for this. I have speculated in the past that if we're going to get all 13 primes in the next trilogy of generations, we will need a Nexus Prime, which does mean that we have to have the combiners that they used for the not Studio Series, I'm thinking the other one, subscription service. The ones that FunPub gave us, which would require 2 aerial bots and 3 Combaticons. We know the aerial bots are on the way. We now have confirmation the Combaticons are coming after. So I'm expecting Generations Heatwave, not the Rescue Bot one, the other one, sometime in 2027. Probably not as a retail thing because it's such an obscure character. More likely fan channel. There's plenty of things they could do at Commander Class, so I'm not really concerned about like that. More likely a fan channel remold of Onslaught once that's revealed for 2026. That's the whole speculation. The curious thing for Silverbolt is, how do you do it, Because Motormaster has this huge trailer that can form the skeleton of Menasor. If you're going to go the same route, what do you do with Silverbolt? Because they're going to keep him somewhat in scale, because Generations tries very hard to keep characters roughly in scale with each other. So what are you going to do with a Commander Class Silverbolt who still has to be like Voyager or a little bit larger in size in robot mode, but still needs all the bulk to create the full Superion robot? And that's where we start having to speculate on what is actually going to be included. Like, is it going to be just like a... It might be like an airport tower of some kind, or like a big runway battle station kind of place that kind of flattens out and little landing spots for all the aerial bots. Maybe. It's really hard to figure out. It's hard to figure out because it's not like Motormaster where it can just turn into a piece of it and it makes sense. No, we got to figure out something completely new for Silverbolt to have packed in with him. So that's a big piece of speculation. We need to figure that one out at some point, but that's going to come later once we have a little bit more information about this one. The next two are from Walmart, and both of them are listed as Transformers Generation Retro Inspired. And we're not entirely sure what retro inspired means, because Walmart has been using retro as part of the branding for their G1 repaints that are done like in animation colors. So I'm not entirely sure what that means, because these are listed as deluxes, so they're absolutely Generations releases. And it starts with Sea Spray. Sea Spray is on that very, very short list of G1 minibots we still do not have, in any way, shape, or form. So really cool to see that, yeah, we're finally getting a modern Sea Spray figure to join the deluxe minibots. My only concern here is that this of potentially creating another situation of like the same thing that happened with Cosmos. But then again, Cosmos was part of a capsule line, which this is going to be a capsule line technically too. But we know the next capsule line for Walmart is designed after Transformers Cybertron. It has names like, Red Hotshot or like Excellion. It has Sideways. It has Cybertron Sky Warp. But this seems like, because this is just now being discovered, probably like either the same way they handled the extended Beast Wars figures for Legacy, or just, a capsule line that's going to come after the Cybertron one. What G1, what retro inspired means here, potentially more cartoon accurate. That'd be my best guess. I mean, the other one is Brawn, and that's the only thing I can imagine them doing. Brawn isn't one of those releases they could redo like they did in Buzzworthy with, like, oh, we're going to replace the windows without, like, remove the translucent plastic, because he never had it to begin with. So unless all they're really doing is, like, brightening up the green, because a lot of Brawns in the past have had brighter green than what we got, which is much closer to the dull, kind of like dark olive green he had in the cartoon. I don't know. I genuinely don't know what they're doing with this. I think I'm more surprised that this is going to be the third release of that Brawn mold, and all three versions are going to look like Brawn. There's normal, there's cartoon, battle damage, and potentially toy accurate. But no Outback. That list of mini-bots I told you about, we still need an Outback. Now that the mold is available, I'm kind of like wondering where that one is. We will see, though. Who knows? That one's a really confusing one. So we just got to wait and see. The next batch is Target exclusive. And the weird thing about the Target exclusive ones is they are all listed as Bullseye. Don't panic. I don't think this is going to be another case of like Optimus Prime done up in all Target logos and mascots. Mostly because they are doing figures that don't really lend themselves to that. For instance, Wheeljack. You're doing this Wheeljack again, huh? This is another situation where I genuinely don't know what they're going to do. I genuinely don't know what else they could do with the Wheeljack figure at this point. You've done toy accurate. You've done cartoon accurate. What? You're going to do him battle damage too? It's not listed as such. You're just going to do like dead Wheeljack in a box. I don't know. But that's because of the others in the list. I don't expect that to be the thing. I feel like this is just like, hey, Hasbro really likes this mold, so we're going to do it again. I don't know what else you're going to do differently to it. Because I know this is not... I discover every time this mold gets talked about that this is not a very popular mold. I like it. I don't think there's really anything wrong with it per se. It's just... I don't know. Like, it just doesn't click with a lot of people. And now it's going to feel pretty overused, frankly. So we get to sit and speculate and wonder what this one's actually going to be. We have no idea. The other one is Sideswipe. And this one is actually a lot easier to figure out. Okay, number one, Evan promised us 20 more Sideswipes. So here's number one, 19 to go. But this one is a lot easier to figure out. The previous Sideswipe release was a 2-pack exclusive to Amazon and not very easy for a lot of people to get. So here is another release of it. It's going to be store exclusive, but at least it's going to be a little bit more widespread, and it's going to be available again, as long as it increases the number of Sideswipes out there. At least Earth mode Sideswipes. We got plenty of the others. I'm also suspecting this would be cartoon accurate and remove the translucent plastic, because that seems to be Hasbro's go-to for re-releasing a lot of these figures. Not that I'm going to mind. Of course, I'm going to be thrilled to get rid of some translucent plastic in these toys. Yeah. And yeah, it'd be a way of getting Earth mode Sideswipe out again, which is not necessarily a bad thing. The fact that that mold is still in existence and still functional is kind of baffling to me. But, you know, it ain't a bad mold, so yeah, if they think they can keep using it, keep using it. I don't care. I don't care. As long as people are still, like, getting a chance to get a toy that otherwise is unavailable or expensive on the aftermarket, okay, fine. Okay, we'll let you have it. Just really wondering, like, how they're going to make it any different other than just taking the translucent out. I'd really like them to figure out some way of getting rid of that black block in the middle of the vehicle mode. I know that's palm plastic, unpaintable, etc. You can't just make it red. You just can't, like, put it on its own sprue and make it red. The other two are interesting, because these are deluxe releases. And then here's the rest of the Bullseye line, which I presume is replacing Buzzworthy Bumblebee as, like, the Target exclusive go-to line. You know, Transformers Generations Bullseye, I guess. And we're going for War for Cybertron figures. And this is interesting, because these are listed as Transformers Generations Bullseye, Studio Series, Voyager, War for Cybertron, Optimus variant. That's a mouthful. So some kind of variation. I presume darker colors, more game accurate. And really, this might be a gaming line in general. Because the one thing I forgot about that Sideswipe and Wheeljack was the listing. They are listed as Transformers Generations Bullseye Studio Series Dev Deluxe. We have seen listings before, very recently, where it seems like Target is going to get exclusives that have that dev mark on them. And considering it's Studio Series, that would mean it is Gamer Edition. The speculation is that we're going to get Devastation-based figures. The listings we showed previously, the listings we talked about here on the channel before, seem to indicate that we're going to be getting repaints of the Battle Chargers, of Run Amok and Runabout, because they appeared in blue, gold, and a few other color schemes in that game. So we could get more of them. So that's what you do with the Sideswipe and Wheeljack. I'd prefer just a normal Sideswipe with, just, no clear plastic. But it's more or less going to be, it's most likely him and Wheeljack are going to be cell shaded. They're going to look like the Devastation game did. Okay, fine. So essentially we're going to get more game accurate paint jobs for all of these figures in this Bullseye range, which probably includes a much grittier and darker colored Optimus Prime that more matches what he looked like in the game, and most likely the same for the Megatron. The Megatron has far more issues to that toy rather than just color scheme. Yeah, like he could be darker and grittier because there's a lot of grit to the color schemes in game of those characters. But also, like, I just got the Flame remold of that toy. It still has those stupid little clips behind the knees that prevent its legs from having full articulation. That's unfortunate. I wish they had fixed that. I don't know why those clips exist. They're stupid. But here we have the Megatron that's going to get another go around. I'm not a big fan of that mold, but to get it again and at least be nicer looking, more game accurate, okay, we could go with that, And hey, like, if we're getting into, like, repaint Studio Series stuff, if we're getting into Devastation stuff, we could have a lot of really cool things coming out. There are definitely possibilities there. Here's another listing, and this one is for Fan Channel. So your Big Bad Toy Stores, your Entertainment Earths, which you can visit in the description below by clicking my link, and any of your in-stock toys are going to be 10% off. So, G2 Dinobots. This is listed as a Generation Select and is literally just one listing. We don't have one for like Grimlock, Slag, etc. All we have is G2 Dinobots. The leak isn't sure if this is going to be cores or leaders. If this is going to be a 5-pack of the Studio Series leaders, it is probably going to be the most absurd multi-pack that Transformers has ever done. You know, not only the fact that G2 Swoop and Sludge have never been released by Hasbro before. This is the first time those toys are going to be in those colors, but also, that's going to be expensive. I want to say the Devastator release they did was like $260. Do I remember that price right? The minimum for this is going to be $275 because it would be 5 leader class figures at the same time. And it would probably be higher than that because the budget on the leader class figures have changed over the years. So some of those older ones might be a little bit more expensive than they were to release previously. You know, your Slug and your Grimlock especially. So we've got a lot to speculate on there. I don't think it's going to be the leaders, because to do that in one box set, yeah, it would sell because it's Dinobots, but it's G2, and G2 stuff traditionally does not sell very quickly for Hasbro. Things like the G2 combiner sets, like, they eventually sold through, but it took a while for those. You know, unless you are like, unless you are like the big bad battling Bruticus, the interest is kind of low. Unless you are G2 Stunticons. Let's be real. The only G2 stuff that's guaranteed to sell well is G2 Stunticons. As far as like the repaints go anyway. So I'm suspecting they play the safe route and they make it the core class Dinobots, which would still get Sludge and Swoop out in their weird orange and green colors. But it also means we're going to get a really weird looking Volcanicus. And it means we got to figure out what color scheme Scar is going to be in. And anything that gets me more Scar releases is going to make me happy. So, yeah, if only for the sake. Here's the thing. I can see Hasbro doing that multi-pack just so they can reuse the packaging that they did for Dino King. You know, same inner tray, same outer box design, just different printing to look Generation 2. God, the Volcanic is going to look so weird. I would even be willing to bet that if they do those as core classes, that we're still going to get the new weapons from Dino King, because that was the G2 thing, is throw new weapons in with old figures. I would actually anticipate that. Of course, they get the old head, and they get the old parts and all that make it look like Volcanicus, but the new axe, the new hands and fists, we'll get those too on on this set, if it is a box set of cores, which I expect it to be. And that leaves one more, and obviously the biggest one. In fact, it's probably the thumbnail. It's definitely in the title, so you've been waiting a while for me to talk about this one. Star Convoy as a Titan. Next year's Titan is Star Convoy. More precisely, Star Optimus Prime, which is such a disappointing name. It doesn't sound cool. It's just Star Optimus Prime. Battlestar Optimus Prime would have sounded way cooler, and it would have been an homage to the Battlestars that, Star Convoy is part of. That would have been great. That would have been clever. No. Star Optimus Prime. That said, this changes a lot. Yeah, it's a big G1 figure, and it is one with a base mode, so it does technically do the kind of stuff you would expect out of a Titan class figure, but it's not necessarily a character that has to be some giant $200 one. this could, like, we've heard rumblings from Hasbro, from like Evan and the others, where they have been thinking about smaller Titans, which would probably go in with the fact that retailers don't really want to take Titans in anymore. So there is something of a marketing ploy to this, to where they could make Titans that are smaller. They aren't gigantic city formers, but they are significant characters. So, you know, it's an Optimus Prime, you know, and for a Hasbro release, this would be the most expensive Optimus Prime that they have released at retail themselves, especially if they, for some reason, do justify a $200 Titan out of this guy. Yes, he could be big enough to be like the size of the other Titans and justify that, especially some of the newer ones, you know. Tidal Wave is a much smaller Titan than, you know, the ones from previous years, like Omega Supreme, Scorponok, and all that, because his part count is so much more dense for everything that toy has to do. That said, Star Convoy, we're basing it off the original toy, is much more simple, right? It doesn't, you know, the transformation's kind of simple, doesn't really do a whole lot. It's not going to have the rolling gimmick, so the legs will actually work, huzzah. But it really isn't that complex of a figure, all things considered. So I can imagine this one being either just like, you know, like, I could imagine this one being bigger than Tidal Wave, or being roughly the same size, you know, being a smaller Titan and not being $200 anymore. Which, between that and the fact that it's Optimus Prime, might make him a lot more appealing to retailers if they want to try and get Titans back into Walmart and Target. So, this changes a lot. Because now this means just large size Transformers are now on the table for Titans. It's, you know, it's not just like Omega Supreme and the giants from the giant planet and like whatever random city bot that you would expect to be done at that size. You know, we're not just looking for like absolutely enormous things anymore. You know, we can just go with really big characters that are big deal, you know, thematically. And it puts me in the mindset of like other characters. Like if they do Star Convoy, we know there are designers in Japan that want to do things like Grandis, for instance. You know, if this toy gets revealed and it has connection ports, then would they do a Grandis and a Sky Gary so you can have the full Battlestar combination in the base modes? No clue, but it puts the possibility out in the universe. You know, and it, of course, opens up this huge range of other characters they could pick from that would now qualify as Titans. It also makes me think of that Megatron that they did in Japan. The Super Megatron / Ultra Megatron. Like that really, really extensively retooled one. He's going to look so tiny compared to his rival. He's going to be embarrassingly small. But then again, I guess this is like... This would be like incentive to do like a brand new one that's like much closer to how Super Megatron and then Ultra Megatron actually looked. Oh man, this leads to so many things to speculate about. This leads to so many things. We might have to redo it. I've done like what could the next Titan be videos multiple times. We might have to do another one now that this door has opened. What other characters would fit the mold for Titan that aren't necessarily giant cities? Who could the smaller Titans be? Because we got plenty of options there too. But that's to speculate on for another day. I'm going to leave it at that because this video is going long. Yeah, we got some exciting stuff on the way. So look forward to it. I'm sure we will be speculating for months before we get any kind of clue what any of this stuff is. But that's the fun of it, right? So have fun with it in the comment section below. And as always, I will see you next time.